Alrighty guys, welcome back to this next little video where we are going to be taking a look at the FM2 Plus platform. Sorry I'm going to have to talk loud here, I'm going to try and filter out the noise of this thing, but unfortunately it's really loud. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so today we're going to be looking at the FM2 Plus platform. Now what does that kind of entail? Well, the FM2 Plus platform came out right about the same time as the AMD FX stuff. The FM2 Plus platform though was focused more on entry-level, low-end gaming, as well as something like basic office use for everyday computing, essentially trying to be something like a Pentium G or a Pentium Gold for Intel. Unfortunately, these things were priced a little bit higher, sitting closer to what an Intel i3 would be from that same generation. And let me tell you, everything that the FX series CPUs suffer from, this thing suffers from as well. Now, according to CPU-Z, it has 4 cores and 4 threads. If you load up Cinebench, it only recognizes it as having 2 cores and 4 threads. As I said, it suffers from the same problems that the AMD FX series CPUs have. It only has 2 true cores, and then 2 cores that piggyback off of the original cores. So, it is a dual-core CPU, which I only started understanding when I started doing more research into this. I was under the impression that it was actually a true quad-core, but unfortunately it is not. So what kind of things can you even expect to do with, well, a platform like this? Well, not a lot. I'm gonna say this again, not a lot. But if you actually want to see what I mean by not a lot, let me show you. Let's get into it. Alrighty guys, so when I said let me show you what I mean, let me show you what I mean. I ran 3D Mark Skydiver. Now this was with my GTX 980 Ti, and at 3D Mark Skydiver, we got a full overall score of 17,210. Now, when I ran 3D Mark Skydiver on my 980 Ti, W3680 overclocked to 4 GHz and 12 gigs of RAM, that I think was clocked at, I want to say 3100 megahertz. I received a score of 20,900. So almost 21,000 points, which really does go to show you that this CPU really is holding back our graphics card. So let's just look at a straight CPU test. I decided to do Cinebench R15, and the reason Cinebench R15, well, simple. Cinebench R20 would probably cause this computer to light on fire. And I went through and I pushed this little dual core as hard as I possibly could. Now what do I mean when I say dual core? I thought this was a quad core. I thought it was too. If you look at Cinebench R15, you'll notice that it says 2 cores, 4 threads. And that's exactly what I mean by the problems that the FX series CPUs have. When AMD was doing the bulldozer architecture, they tried to use these piggyback core methods to increase their core count when all they were essentially doing was doing a very rudimentary form of hyperthreading that was doubling their logical cores essentially, while actually having a core, but it was piggybacking off the main core. It was a very interesting architectural design that really did kind of lack a lot of substance. Now if you look, at 4.9 gigahertz, we got 361 as a Cinebench R15 score, which is mental. It's super, super low. Alright guys, so the first game that we are testing out is Call of Duty Warzone, and yes, that is not your screens bugging out, and that is not your internet slowly dying. That is actually what I was seeing when I was recording this gameplay. Now, I jumped into a solo match, and yeah, let's just take a look and see what actually happened once I decided that it was time to jump. We received a lot of lag, a lot of stutter, where I thought it was going to be okay, where we might have some stuttering and some lag come the early game, but then things would equalize out come late game. But evidently, the game had other plans for us. Yes, it froze, and then it crashed. and I was not able to actually successfully make a run of Call of Duty Warzone. It would not allow me to hit the ground. So, let's take a look at something else, shall we? So the next game we're going to be looking at is Grim Dawn, which is another notoriously hard, single-core, CPU-intensive game due to the amount of entities that are on screen and due to it being an older game engine. It has been better optimized than what it used to be, but we were still seeing a bunch of lag and stutter, where most of the time we'd be sitting around 60 FPS without any entities on screen, but then the moment we would jump into a even medium-sized crowd of enemies, we would be dropping into the high 40s and low 50s, which in retrospect is not actually all that bad, but for a gaming PC, this is not what I would consider to be acceptable. Alright guys, but not everything is all doom and gloom. I have given you a lot of examples of things that aren't going to be very good. But what about things that actually are halfway decent? Let's take a look at Borderlands II. Borderlands II is quite a few years old now, but still a very, very good game with, in my opinion, still really good gameplay and really good storyline. But being all said and done, Borderlands 2 is a pretty good example of what this CPU can actually do. Now, what I did for a benchmark run was max everything out to the moon at 1366 by 768 with my GTX 980 Ti, and I decided to go kill Frosty. Now, I have spent a lot of time farming this boss, so I kind of get the idea of like where it'll lag and where it won't, and we were averaging about 62 FPS, which is not amazing. And mind you, this game was not running as well as what it probably could have been, but being the fact that we managed to make an entire run and not drop out, not lag out, not crash, it was okay. The next game that we actually had a pretty good time testing was Fallout 4. Now, this was Fallout 4 with everything maxed out, except for, I believe, some of the render distances. I pushed the settings as far as I possibly could go with my GTX 980 Ti, and I saw almost a constant 60 FPS, where one time, or a single time, we dropped down to 55 FPS. But beyond that, a pretty good experience, and honestly something you could easily play on this CPU. With Fallout 4, you've also got the opportunity to play something like Skyrim. Two games that have absolutely amazing critical acclaim, that are absolutely amazing gaming experiences, that when you pair it with a decent graphics card and an okay-ish monitor, you can really be absorbed into those worlds. Okay, so after Fallout 4, what's another AAA title game that we can actually play quite well? How about Dark Souls 2? When I was just literally running around the little tutorial area, just kind of moving around the controls and moving around my character a little bit, it stayed at 60 FPS. It never dropped, and it was very, very smooth, which really kind of surprised me, being that this game was a little bit harder to run when it first came out, and I was actually using this CPU when this game first came out. Okay, so the last two games were games that you could rationalize playing on a CPU like this. What kind of games should you actually be playing on a CPU like this? Well, how about Torchlight II? Torchlight II is an amazing action RPG style game that is a couple of years old now, but has a massive modding community that has done so much work for this game, to the point where you could buy this game and play through multiple custom campaigns with ease. And honestly, this was a pretty fun game that I've spent a lot of time playing. Now, being the fact that it is an action RPG, it does require pretty good single-core performance, but not as drastic as what Grim Dawn does. So, Torchlight 2 actually ran a little bit better, with fewer stutters. There were still the occasional stutters here and there, but not nearly to the extent of Grim Dawn. Okay, another great game that you should be playing on a PC like this is Rimworld. Now this game is not graphically intensive, is somewhat CPU intensive if you're throwing a lot of mods at it, but just for a basic Rimworld unmodded experience, this thing can hold up really, really well. Where the controls felt light and snappy, everything felt good to be playing on, and I had set the 5 colony Lost Tribe starting, and I would have no problem playing this game on this PC. And the final game that really, really does deserve a little mention here is Terraria. Now, Terraria is a game that most people know about because of its critical acclaim, art style, and just fun gameplay, and just creativeness that you can have in this game. Terraria is the kind of games that you should be looking at when you have this PC. So not everything is all doom and gloom when it comes to the FM2 Plus platform. And I genuinely do mean that when I say that. When looking at what this platform actually supplies, yes, you're not going to be doing any high intense, high top-of-the-line gaming, but lighter indie titles, lighter AAA title games, or older AAA title games, and then games like Terraria or Torchlight, you can still have a lot of fun with a PC like this. And for most people, they aren't going to be running out and building a PC on this platform. Or if they are, it's because they got it for a very low price. Now, I don't think people should run out and try and buy the same stuff that I have. The A88X chipset, I believe is what it's called, those motherboards are rather expensive. But say you've got a buddy who just built a new PC and that's what he used to have and he's now throwing that stuff out and he's willing to give it to you for nothing or give it to you for 50 bucks, then you could actually have some fun with it. Now, obviously, not being able to build as nice of a PC or not being able to play as many games on it as what you probably would want, but at the end of the day, it still has its use case. Now, I don't remember exactly who said it, but they said that there is no such thing as bad hardware, only bad prices. And if you're planning on actually using a PC like this, please do not spend all that much money on it, because it will leave you feeling disappointed by the end of the day. But if your plans are with it, similar to mine, for light esports gaming and using it as a home media server, it will do quite well for you. And honestly, I might be slightly disappointed by the gaming performance when it comes to games like Call of Duty Warzone, but that's simply because I was hoping it was going to be able to give me an experience that it, well, obviously couldn't. But, like I said, it's not all doom and gloom. There's always got to be a bright side when it comes to these PCs. Okay guys, well I'm going to wrap this one up here. Thank you all very much for watching, and I have got some fun things planned for the future, so stay tuned, because we might be doing a fun little custom PC. Wink wink, nudge nudge. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.